Hey everybody, what's going on? This is Sam from Historic Travels, wishing all of you a good day. Now guys, yesterday, shortly before I did my live stream, I became aware that a couple of photos, or new photos, of the RMS Titanic wreck site were released. Now, these photos came from RMS Titanic Incorporated, who back in July of this year led a new expedition to the wreck of the Titanic. And the purpose of this expedition was just to survey the ship, take new photographs of it, and try to judge the condition of the ship and see how fast the ship was deteriorating. And when they released these photos, I'll have one up here right now. It's a photo of the Titanic's bow section. Well, if you're at all familiar with Titanic wreck photos, you should notice something pretty iconic from the Titanic's bow section that is now missing. Take a look at the port side of the bow section, and you'll notice one of the railings, or a chunk of the railing that was there on the port side, is now completely gone. Now, in terms of scale of importance of how important is this railing to the entire wreck of the Titanic? Well, it's not that important at all in terms of, just because that railing collapsed or fell over doesn't mean that the entire wreck of the Titanic is at risk. But personally, to anyone who has grown up seeing Titanic wreck photos and everything, well, that railing is pretty important. I mean, it's an iconic piece of the Titanic wreck section. And when I first saw that photo of the bow and I saw that railing gone, I was just like, ah, it hurt. Like, it was just like an important part of the ship is gone. I mean, it felt like it anyway. Now, you see, for those of you who don't know, the reason why the Titanic is deteriorating so quickly is because the ship is covered in this bacteria called rusticles, and the rusticles are literally eating the Titanic. It has amazed researchers whenever they go down to the Titanic and they compare, photos from the previous expedition to the expedition that they're doing at that moment, and they can clearly see Titanic deteriorating. There's usually a couple of years in between expeditions to the Titanic where we don't see the ship at all. So this is why we're always surprised when we go back and we see, the level of deterioration. A good example of this is the Titanic's mast at the very front of the ship that housed the crow's nest. When we first found the wreck of the Titanic, the mast was, it had fallen over, but it was still relatively intact. It was just laying there perfectly straight, just laying on the wreck. But then when we went back a few years later, we saw that the mast had collapsed and curved in. You can see the before and after in these photos here that I'm showing you right now. Another iconic piece of the Titanic that we watched deteriorate was the captain's quarters, located at the very top of the Titanic in the officer's quarters section. Very often when people went to visit the wreck of the Titanic, they would go and check out that area because a very iconic piece of the Titanic wreck, the captain's bathtub, was clearly visible right there. And the room was mostly gone, but you could still see piping in the walls connecting to the bathtub. And, a lot of the room structure was still there, just deteriorated. But then when they went back, a few years later, they saw that entire room had collapsed and the bathtub was mostly buried. I believe they could see a tiny corner of it, but yeah, I mean, this proves my point, before and after shots of watching the Titanic deteriorate. You see, now there were plans, I believe it was RMS Titanic Incorporated that was talking about this, I could be wrong, but there was a plan in the works where they wanted to get into the Titanic's Marconi room, or the radio room, and recover what was left of the Titanic's radio, or the Marconi wireless set. I'm not sure how much of it will be left after this long underwater, but still, that's a pretty important artifact from the Titanic. But now that plan to recover the radio is now at risk due to the deterioration of the ship. A while back, they released these beautiful computer scans of the entire Titanic wreck site, and when they looked at these scans, they noticed something troubling. They took a look at the roof of the Marconi room, and they saw that due to this deterioration, the roof of that room is beginning to collapse. And when it does, that radio will be lost to history. There is no way we'll ever find it again. So I'm not sure what the current plans are with that, or if they're even still talking about trying to recover the radio, but personally, I hope they do. I hope that they do recover what's left of it and they preserve it so we can study it and learn more about the wreck of the Titanic and hopefully put it into a museum somewhere where everybody can see it and learn the important history of that artifact. But yeah, jumping back to that railing at the very front of the ship, as I said, In the grand scheme of the entire ship, it's not that important that it fell over, but to those of us who grew up looking at the Titanic wreck photos, the first thing we see is the bow. You know, that's the first part of the Titanic that we all see, and we are all so familiar with it. So to see that railing gone, I mean, I don't know about all of you. I mean, let me know what you all think in the comments below, but it hurt. It really did hurt when I saw that. Now, they did check the seafloor right around where that railing was, and they did find it. It is laying there at the bottom of the ocean, you know, so I don't know. Maybe they could go down there and get it and bring it up and preserve it. I mean, I'd be okay with that, but guys, you know, as we all know, the Titanic is deteriorating, you know, and it really is a race against time to try to recover what artifacts we can from the shipwreck before it's gone forever. I mean, it sucks. It really, really does suck that we're losing the ship. Anyway, guys, I just wanted to make this quick video talking about that. So if you enjoyed this video, please be sure to leave it a like. If you're new here, please subscribe to the channel. Thank you guys so much. It helps out a lot. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Y'all take care.